So WIFIA is a loan program run out of EPA headquarters. We operate on a national level, and our mission is to provide supplemental, low-cost, flexible water infrastructure financing. And that is for wastewater, stormwater, drinking water projects. So first, I'm going to go through some of our really high level program requirements, but the whole time I'm talking, with the exception of just a couple of things, just keep in mind WIFIA equals flexible. So the one area where we can't be flexible is with our minimum project costs. So we do have a minimum project cost requirement of either 20 million for communities of 25,000 people or more, or 5 million for communities under that threshold. Aside from that, we have a lot more flexibility. We can fund up to half of up to 49% of project costs for those larger communities of 25,000 and above, and up to 80% of project costs for those smaller communities. That's one way in which we find that a lot of borrowers, a lot of communities in other states have really seen a lot of success pairing WIFIA with their SRF programs, like all of the programs that Chelsea just described for WIFIA. So these two programs can actually complement each other very well. We have, similar to what Chelsea was describing, we have a really long maturity that we're able to offer borrowers. We can lend for up to 40 years. That's 35 years after your project is completed. So typically we see that around 40 years or so. You have the option to defer any payments up to 5 years after substantial completion of the project, at which point you can start paying interest only if you want, or you can begin paying principal right then as well. You have the option to really customize your repayment schedule to make it exactly what you need it to be, sculpting around your existing debt. You can backload principal if you need to. We just want to see some amortization in the last 10 years or so. But other than that, we can really defer our repayment until after you've already retired other debt, or as you're kind of slowly ramping up those rate increases. The interest rate is fixed on the WIFIA loans. That's set based on the Treasury rate on the day of closing. We do also have an option for a one-time interest rate reset. Think of it like a refinancing. That option is available to anyone before they've reached the 50% mark of construction or before they've drawn on the loan. So let's say you're pairing us with a WIFIA loan or with a WIFIA grant. You're using WIFIA first. You're planning to use WIFIA second, and then you can have that option to reset your interest rate should they kind of go back down in the near future, hopefully. We do have really broad eligibility for our projects, the borrowers we're able to lend to, and kind of how we piece everything together. So we are able to bundle together projects with kind of different goals or different objectives. We do understand that water is kind of a whole picture, and so if you need to kind of piece together different projects in your CIP, we're certainly willing to work with you on that. And one way that we do try to streamline our process is that we do have all of the federal requirements that are subject, that any federal dollars are subject to. But we try to make sure that that is as streamlined as possible. We're going to be coaching you through the federal requirement process if it's new to you. If it's something you've already done before, or you have another federal funding source, we're going to make sure you're only doing all of those reviews just once, and we'll borrow from that other funding source, sharing information. So for example, you're only doing the NEPA review one time, and then we'll adopt from WIFIA or BOR or whoever else is funding for you. And of course, we're here to answer questions along the way. As of right now, you may or may not be familiar with the Build America, Buy America requirements. Any new federal dollars are subject to Build America, Buy America, which also is the case for WIFIA, except for the fact that we do have a programmatic waiver on all of our funds right now. This automatically applies to any project that started any planning or design activities prior to May 14th of 2022. So if you even have it in your CIP, if this is kind of part of a community document of any kind, if you can show that this was in the works anytime before last May, we are willing to apply that waiver for you, and then you won't be subject to BABA for that. As I mentioned, we have really broad eligibility in terms of our project. We can fund anything related to kind of drought resiliency, water, wastewater, water reuse, dams, etc. We also have a lot of flexibility in who we can lend to. So we are not just limited to water utilities or municipalities. We can also lend to P3s, public-private partnerships, or private entities. We have seen some borrowers coming in, kind of partnering with the community, but the private corporation is actually taking on the debt to carry out the project. And then we have really broad eligibility in terms of which project costs we're able to fund. This can be previously incurred costs if your project is already underway, or if you've done kind of in-house design, that can be part of your cost match, that other 51% of your project costs, and any of the financing costs, engineering costs, etc. Of course, construction too. So some of the ways in which WIFIA is really flexible, and some of the ways that you can really customize us to your advantage, is that you are able to kind of draw according to your own schedule, right? We're a reimbursement program, so you're not incurring interest from day one. You're incurring interest as you disperse the money. You can prepay at any time. We can take a subordinate position if you need us to. We would just need to be on parity with other project debt. So let's say you're issuing bonds for the remaining 51%, we just need to be on the same lien as those bonds for that project. But we can take the subordinate position if you need us to. We also have an option for a master agreement. And this is kind of an umbrella agreement under which you can secure multiple loans, but you're securing the total financing amount up front. And then you're able to kind of close multiple loans under that one agreement. So you have common terms, you know what to expect for future loans. But let's say you have one project that's shovel ready today, and you have like phase 2 or 3 that's still kind of working through the engineering and design, or you're working on the NEPA process and it's not quite ready to go. You can secure that loan 1 for the shovel ready project, and you can be working towards loan 2, 3, and so on. For the remaining phases of the project or other portions of the project, however you want to break that down. And then one of the ways, as Anne mentioned, I am a loan manager, so I work with our borrowers after closing. So one of the ways that we do really try to meet borrowers' needs is we try to have a really fast turnaround time for any of the requests that you come in with. So if it's an amendment, we really try to make sure to get that amendment processed and ready for you within 30 to 60 days. And for disbursements, we want to get your cash out to you within 2 weeks. So you can submit your request to us either on the 1st or the 15th of the month, and you'll have your money on the 15th or the 1st of the next month. So we do try to make that readily available to you. So to apply for WIFIA, it's a 2-step process. Step number 1 is going to be the letter of interest phase. We operate like a bank. We have funding available all year long. You can come to us whenever it makes the most sense for you. We are happy to work with projects that are at any stage of design or development. We've had borrowers come in at 0% design and 90% design. The vast majority come in around 30 or 60%, but we're happy to work with anyone at any time. You can submit your letter of interest, and we commit to giving you your selection decision within 8 weeks. So 2 months, you have your invitation to apply with the amount that you're invited to apply for, which is usually the amount you've requested. And then from there, you are free to submit your application at any time within the next year. So we'll hold that money for you for a full year. From there, you're going to go through the underwriting process. We really dive into the details. The first stage, the letter of interest stage, it's really a high level. Is this project eligible? Is the borrower eligible? Are you creditworthy, et cetera. And then in the application phase, where we're underwriting the loan, we're really diving more into the details. We're completing that NEPA review. We're negotiating the terms of the loan, figuring out the repayment schedule, et cetera. So that's usually a 6 or 7 month process. It can take as little as 4 months if everything is organized and ready to go. We've had some borrowers that just because of, turnover in city management or because of any number of other reasons, it's taken up to 3 years. We can work with you at the pace that you need us to. We're more than happy to be patient with you. So then once you get to closing, then you work with my team and then we get you your money whenever you're ready. So as I mentioned, you can submit at any time and we will review those letters of interest. I know that, Chelsea had the question earlier about kind of helping to fill out the application materials. We are more than happy to set up a meeting with you one-on-one. We do not have a competitive process because we have this funding available all the time. Each application is really reviewed on its own merit. And so we are able to kind of meet with you one-on-one, have those in-depth conversations, answer any questions you may have, give you some guidance. And we're happy to do that as much as you need. And that's also true even after you submit your letter of interest. If there's some information missing, we can come back to you and kind of keep that conversation going to make sure we're getting all the information we need to make that selection decision. And so here on this slide, you'll see some resources available to you where you can learn all you could want to know about WIFIA, including our eligibility. You'll find our application materials on the second link, the bottom link on the left-hand side. And, you can kind of browse everything about the program eligibility in the handbook on there as well. So with that, I will be happy to take any questions you have.